Observe, my friends, the following phrase: putting the power back in your own hands. Actually observe it. I've been talking about observation a lot recently. There's something wrong about the phrase, isn't there, if you actually pay attention to it? Putting the power back into your own hands. Wrong way around. The power to live your life has always been in these fine hands. Always. The problem is not bringing it back. The problem is giving it away. Okay? We believe we live in such an inverted world, and we have done so for centuries. I mean, this isn't anything new. We live in such an inverted world that we have legitimized destructive and bad behavior, believing that the price of living in a civilized society is paying your taxes to whichever bullshit government we've got at the moment. You know, we believe we've legitimized, and actually beyond legitimized, we have mandated theft as a means of paying for public services when we could do so perfectly well and more effectively and efficiently privately. We've mandated theft. Because if you think about it, it's going to be a heavy video for you today. Buckle up. If you think about it, your labour and the fruits thereof, well, what right does any outside party have to, by decree and by force, to take your earnings away from you? It's only something actually that I discovered recently, although we're all clever enough to actually figure this stuff out for ourselves, that I'm an architect's son, and I am obsessed with fabulous buildings, decorative buildings, especially mansions and palaces and castles. As an Englishman, every man's home is his castle. And I was watching for a while a few channels of restored sort of Victorian period houses in the United States, often. But one of these videos, which was of a restored merchant's house in somewhere like Philadelphia or somewhere like that, and the lady that was doing the tour around this house commented, well, the reason that they could do all of these things, make such beautiful edifices with beautiful ornate carved fretwork, in the woodwork, and beautiful coloured tiles, the reason they could do all of this, what we would call so extravagantly and decoratively, was because they didn't pay any income tax. And belabouring the point, to hammer it home, that all of these things that we take for granted are all actually relatively new things. Income tax was actually levied originally in the UK about 200 years ago to fund the Napoleonic Wars, and it was supposed to be a temporary thing, but it's remained in perpetuity because obviously, if you want to talk about a money spinner, steal up to half of people's income, and once you've actually brought in all the taxes, you're only ending up with about 30, maybe 40% at the absolute most of your income. Because the joke is, and it's a dark joke, sinister, because I said buckle in, the reality is there's nothing so permanent as a temporary government program, which is what money is. Money is it's a government program. They control it, and they usually control it not by apparent and obvious force, but they actually do it by compliance. They will use phrases like the price of living in a civilized society is that you pay your taxes. But most of the tax that you pay, frankly, and we know with all the different wars that are going on in the world, it's where most of it goes. Live Aid this socialist utopian festival. Well, what actually happened was most of the money that was raised, if not all of it, and Bob Geldof doesn't want you to know this, but actually he admitted later, on the down low, that most of the money went to despotic African warlords and didn't go to any of the people that it was intended to go to. So this isn't going to be a video where I, as tempting as it is, tell you to cancel all of your direct debits and stop just paying your council tax and let the people turn up at your door banging you away to extract all of your valuable items to pay for your debts. No. That's not what I'm doing here at all. But what I am doing is saying that the power has always been in your hands. It's always been in all of our hands. But we need a certain critical mass of people to wake up to these things. And this principle doesn't just go for money. It goes for all of your interactions in relationships. There was somebody that I actually befriended fairly soon after I moved back to my hometown. And the communication has been very sporadic. But I was having a chat with him last night, and we've been talking about having lunch somewhere or whatever, and having a drink somewhere, and he suggested that we meet today, but in fact that didn't sit well, that didn't work for me. I prefer to meet next week because I'm not rushing into anything anymore. I'm not making rash decisions anymore. But what I am doing is doing things that resonate with my head and heart, and taking my time over things, because there is no hurry. You do have time. But the funny thing that happens when I make these decisions for myself, I actually feel a huge amount of guilt. And it's something that I'm actively working on. Because it's why I keep repeating this: make decisions and feel happy about them, feel satisfied with them, and feel justified, because it is your life. I keep repeating this all the time. And the reason I'm repeating it all the time is because I'm reminding myself of the fact. And one of the things that we grossly underestimate in each of us is the enormous influence that we can actually have when we understand the truth of things. Take nothing for granted. Question everything. Because the versions of what we refer to as history are complete bollocks. Complete and utter bollocks. They're not real. They're means of perpetuating a particular system that benefits a tiny group of people, but doesn't really benefit any of us. Net zero, climate change, putting chemicals into calves so they don't fart as much because methane is killing the environment. It's all bullshit. It's all complete bullshit. But what it is useful to certain people. And most people just want to follow because they don't want to offend anybody. But at the expense of ourselves, not wanting to offend people means that you're not living in reality, you're not living in truthfulness, and you're not living in your own power and influence. We have enormous capacity to do great things in the world when we realize how individually powerful each and every single one of us is. And we've seen movements and so-called protests and uprising. We think that uprising is a harmful word, but no, it means that you rise up from being a victim and giving away your power, which you've always had and always will have. And it's your choices and your decisions that makes you powerful. It really does. And this is what I'm focusing on as 2025 fastly approaches, and for every other year of the rest of my life, I'm going to live within my own power. And it's frightening. I find it frightening because I don't want to offend people, but you're going to. You're just going to. You can't please all the people all the time, but you can please yourself most of the time. So be observant. Be observant, pay attention, and always remember to live in your own power. Use it.